Okay, guys, this is my last broadcast for the year. It is Friday. It is December the 31st. That means it is New Year's Eve. So I thought I'd just take a few minutes to talk about a few things that I just want to talk about. Anyway, it's been a really interesting year, particularly as it relates to the movies. And I want to tell you, I've had a really blessed year. I've had some great guests on the Real Critic Roundtable this year, and had a couple of folks who supported it like 100%. And that's my co-host, KB. And if you don't know, you better ask somebody, as well as Katia Woods. Both of them appeared. I think I did somewhere between 30 and 40 shows this year. We missed a few weeks because, people were busy and all that other type of stuff. But I really appreciate their support, and I actually appreciate your support as well. The reason I came up with the Real Critic Roundtable is that I was looking for a way to elevate Black voices in film and to kind of balance the scales a little bit, to have a discussion with men and women about film. And I just didn't want to do the typical one person type of thing. And I'm going to do that actually on a podcast as well. But I didn't want to just do that, because what I wanted to see is that sometimes we think that when we hear from one person or one Black person, that that person really gets to speak for all Black people. And when I say sometimes, actually, that happens so frequently, it's actually crazy. I'm just looking over here to make sure I don't have any comments coming through. But anyway, um, it's funny to me because we are not monolithic, and we don't think the same. You probably hear it on this broadcast alone how KB likes this one thing and I don't like it. Katia likes this one thing and I don't like it. And occasionally KB and Katia actually don't like the same things as well. So I created this so there would be a platform to hear some different voices, but to also see the diversity within the diversity. I'm going to use this broadcast to talk a little bit about some TV shows that I think you might be able to binge. I mean, like you can hurry up and binge these things before Monday when most of us have to go back to work. We got to go back to the gig. But before I do that, I do want to speak a little bit to the box office and some of the things that have been happening in the movie world. Now, check this out. Spider-Man No Way Home passed the 1 billion mark. At this moment, it is at like $1.1 billion internationally or globally. That means the domestic as well as the international market. And so when we look at this movie from a domestic perspective, it right now is at $470 million. This means this movie pulled people into the theaters. Now, it's a little bit surprising, but it's not surprising. But this is huge. This is like the first. It's at 1 billion already, and it's the first movie to pass 1 billion since the pandemic. And there are only a couple of movies that actually made it to 1 billion quicker, and one of them is an Avengers film, and I can't remember the other. But the real point is that it really did get people into the theater. We are tired of being cooped up. People really want to get out, and this movie made them go out and see it. That's the good news. The bad news is people didn't go see all the other films for the most part. The next film that came into um, the second film for the holiday weekend, that film was Sing 2, and it actually did pretty good. Audiences really liked this movie. When you look at the cinema score, it was rated as an A+. I liked it. Was it the best movie ever? No, but was it fun, enjoyable, and all that? I watched it with my family, and it was fun. It had a great message about believing in yourselves and not believing in the chatter of what other people say to you. So for young people who went to see it, they probably enjoyed it. And for older folks who were dragged to it, it was a fun movie. And the music for me was catchy. I knew many of the songs and it was enjoyable. And that film did about $22 million domestically. However, The Matrix Resurrections did not do that well. And I'm gonna tell you, I was surprised. Not surprised. It's interesting because the critics didn't love this movie. It was somewhere about a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think the audience didn't love it too much more than that as well. But I really liked this one. I my review talked about what you won't do for love. Neo trying to find Trinity. What you won't do for love reminds me of the song by Bobby Caldwell. But anyway, uh, it didn't do that well. It did about $12 million at the box office. That could be because it was also released in on HBO, so you could watch it at home. Now, because we don't know how many people watched it at home, we can't really say. But I will tell you is that everybody in my house watched it at home and watched it at different times. So my daughter and her boyfriend watched it, then my other daughter watched it, then my wife watched it. So I suspect that it probably got a lot of viewership. I think that this is one of those movies that you have to see that that you would enjoy better in the big on the big screen. At least it was for me. I really enjoyed it on the big screen, and I liked that they had Yahya Abdul Mateen II. Um, I thought he did a really good job. I just thought that this was a good way to bring the franchise back, and I enjoyed it. But again, it didn't do that well at the box office. So, what were the other three movies? It's The Kingsman, American Underdog, and A Journal for Jordan were the other three new movies that came out into the marketplace, and neither of those movies did well. So, I believe that that's because for these smaller movies, people aren't going to take the chance to go and see them, but they will say, okay, I'll go out there that one time to do that. That's it for me for talking about the movies, talking a little bit about the box office. I really want to say to you guys, Happy New Year. This is the last Friday and the last day of the year. And I know that it's been a tough year for many of us personally and professionally. And I want to hope that 2022 brings you not only some new challenges, because it will bring you some new challenges, but also some new triumphs. I, as you can see, because I started this whole thing off talking about movies, is that I got a chance to see a lot of movies this year. I even made it to a red carpet or two, and I made it to a premiere. But for the most part, I watched the majority of my movies at home. Now, I'm happy that the studios figured out that many of us were very, very hesitant to go into the theaters, and they offered us some options for home viewing. I like that. But there were some positives and there's some negatives to the new movie landscape. Negatively, oh, I see you got a couple of folks viewing. I don't see my comments in here, so I don't see who's viewing. But thanks for checking me out. But there were some positive and negatives to this new movie landscape. Negatively, we became less social. That means we saw our friends less in person, and we missed the group effect of watching the movies. I want to talk a little bit about the group effect of watching a movie. There are sometimes, oh, I see Mr. Ghostin in there, man. Hey, I'm glad you joined in, and this is my like year in saying let's kick the year off and say goodbye to 2021, but also say hello to 2022. Um, so thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate that. Um, But I want to talk a little bit about this group effect of watching the movies. How many times have you watched a movie and you really didn't like it, but if you went with your friends, it became a little bit better because there's this group effect, or it became a little bit worse because there is this group effect. You hear some laughing and you be like, "Oh, that's funnier than I thought." You hear some booing, you're like, "Yeah, I didn't like that." So yeah, there is this good thing about having the purity of watching it by yourself, but there's that group effect, and I actually miss that group effect of watching the movies. Also, what happened with the movies this year is it hurt the economy. Most theaters suffered, and the surrounding businesses suffered as well. And just don't think that that impacted the big companies. Small theaters had to close, people lost their jobs, and people relied a lot more on food banks to survive. I see you saying, Antonio, that it depends if I'm watching a movie with my wife, or because she hates talking during the movies. I know that's right. I'd be like, could you shut up? Be a little bit quiet. But I really appreciate that comment, man, because you're right. See, I don't mind the talking in the movies if you whispering to me. I mind the talking to the movies if you're narrating in the back. Now, if you're saying something to the screen like, "Oh no, don't go in there, don't do that," that's okay to me because movies, particularly those movies that are like horror movies, they're made for you to talk to the screen. So there's some talking to the screen doesn't bother me. I just don't like the narration, like the person sitting in the back, like, "Yeah, you know what's gonna happen next." Or the person who is having a conversation, like, last time that we saw this movie, or the person that's on their telephone. Those are the folks that bother me. But let me talk about what happened with the theaters this year. Consumers were giving more options to watch things at home. And what I think that did is that we learned how to enjoy family time again. We actually sat down, got some popcorn, got on the couch, watched something together, and for the most part, my kids bother me though, and where they bother me is that they still are looking at their telephone while they're watching the movie. So we were trying to have some family time, but they were like, "Dad, we know how to multitask." Maybe I just don't know how to do it, and this new way of watching stuff is just not my cup of tea. Um, I see Jessica saying she utilized HBO Max too. Yeah, because we did. We watched a lot. And Jessica, good to hear from you. And sorry we didn't have a good party this year because we were looking for people. But we also learned, like I said, how to enjoy family time again. But we also had for the options for what to watch got wider and deeper. So, for instance, if you were in search of LGBTQ plus content, there was more as well as different types of LGBTQ plus content. And this is important. More is great, but when there's different, that means that you get to start to see the diversity within the diversity. And this is true for if you were looking for Latinx content, if you were looking for African American content, and it's also true if you were looking at specific genres like sci-fi, romance, and many other areas. I will tell you, I'm the romance guy. I like the action stuff, but I actually like the romance movies. And I'm gonna say something that you might just be like, nah. I watched um, let's see, I watched Lifetime Channel and the Hallmark Channel. I watched a couple of those Christmas movies because it was more about romance. It's formulaic, you know what's gonna happen, but I do wait for the kiss at the end. Anyway, the other thing I want to mention is that even for families who couldn't afford the monthly streaming services, because there are a lot of them out there, and after a while they get expensive, especially if you lost your job during the pandemic, especially if some things happen from some people in your family got sick. Heaven forbid that happened to any of you guys, but really understand that some of those things can happen. So, but what it did is say you could order a movie for 30 bucks, 50, 40 bucks, whatever it was, and have movie and a dinner at home. Again, The landscape has changed, and another positive is smaller movies found a way to shine at home. The negative to that is that they had problems at the theater, and you just saw that with movies like A Journal for Jordan. Those movies had problems really finding their audience in the theater. Journal for Jordan only did about $2,000, and this is a good movie. It's directed by Denzel Washington, and of course, you have your boy uh, man, why I'm forgetting Jordan's name? Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan starring along with Shantae Adams. So, but it didn't do that well. I think what the theaters are looking at is they're saying, can I make more money with a monthly subscription versus a one-time fee? Which, when you go to the theater, the studio split that one-time fee with the theaters. Or so the theatrical release, does it really make them more money, or do they make more money having people just come to them directly? I don't really know what the future is, but I know that I binged a couple of shows with my family, and my family binged even more than I did. So here are a few shows that you still have a chance to binge over the weekend before you have to go back to work. Before I do that, I got a couple of comments over here. So let me see what oh, I see that Antonio said that was a great movie. It did not do well. No, it did not. It only made I said 2000, only made $2 million, excuse me, at the box office. I wanted to see it, but I couldn't bring myself to go to the show. And that's a lot of folks. A lot of folks really couldn't bring themselves to go to the show. So I'm not going to keep you guys too much longer. I'm going to wrap this up. But here are a couple of things that I'm recommending that you binge. And I hope that you don't cringe. Why do you think it didn't do well? Okay. Well, I think a couple of things is that people are like, is this? I think viewing habits have changed. Is that people are like, is this a movie that I would really go pay for to go see in the movies? And I think that the streaming services, particularly Netflix, has said to folks, hey, we got some theater quality movies. Netflix upped their game. The studios have upped their game because you're not just going to pay for one of these streaming services just because. You're going to pay for a streaming service like HBO HBO because you want to see something that you can't get someplace else, that you can't get on broadcast. So I think the viewing habits have changed, and people are asking themselves the question: is A Journal for Jordan really a movie that I would want to pay to go to the theater for? My answer to that is yes, because remember, I said I like romance and it's a love story. So I agree with you, Jessica, that Netflix is killing it. Netflix is absolutely killing it at the theater. So thanks for that comment. So that's what I think, Antonio. And I think people say, well, let me just wait until I can see it at home. I think the other thing is the cost. The cost of movies, you know, you take you let's say you have two kids, like I do, and you go to the movies. So let's just say that the price of the ticket is somewhere around $12. So right there, you're paying somewhere about $50 just to get to the theater. It's still the cheapest game in town, but it's still a lot for people who are trying to navigate their way through the pandemic. That's what I think. What's your number of streaming? What is your number of streaming service choice? I All right, wow, that's tough. I'll get to that in a minute. But let's go back to the cost. So just to get to the movie cost me somewhere around $50. If I go to a movie downtown Chicago, I got to find parking. And I think the cheapest parking I've found is somewhere around $10 to $12. So I'm already at 60, $70. Then we get in, and I'm like, man, I ain't gonna buy no popcorn. I'm not gonna buy any candy. But let's just say that you do, and everybody buys one thing: a bucket of popcorn. Man, it was expensive. I think it was close to $20. A Slurpee was expensive. So you come out of there. You could come out of there 100 $150 depending on what you buy. And now you want to get some nachos and some other things. So I just think that that the movie has to really say, yes, this is the movie that you really want to go to. And I'm not sure people said that for A Journal for Jordan. And you said number one number one service. Huh. Antonio, why you want to put me on up against the wall? I can't say because I am watching so many different streaming services and they have so many different things. Let me get back to that after I give you what I think you should binge over the 3 days. It's gonna be tough because but Donna just got through binging herself, my wife. She just got through binging Insecure. And I didn't even put it on my list, but it should have been like on the top of my list. It is a great show to binge because it really does show the diversity within the diversity as it relates to Black folks, that we're not all the same, that we're different, that we're quirky, and all that other type of stuff. So where are you going to binge that? So she just got through binging that, and that was I had to watch some of the shows for that I've seen before, and I really enjoyed what Issa Rae has done with that show, and farewell as it has ended. The show that I want to recommend to you guys is the show Ted Lasso. I know. You might say, Ted Lasso? Really? Ted Lasso? Ted Lasso is on Apple TV Plus, and this is a story about an American football coach going to England to coach their version of football. That's right, their version is called soccer, football. It is less about the sport than about how the sport challenges people to be the best, be their best, and discover what makes them very special, themselves, each individually. Man, the characters are interesting. The situations are really funny. I think that when you look at this particular show, it's smart, it's engaging, and I want to warn you, it is addictive. This is a great show to binge watch. I'm just checking my comments and making sure I'm not missing something there. This one stars Jason Sudeikis. It has won 7 Emmys and it is on Apple TV. I'm telling you, it is really good. So Mary says, hey, Mary, love the conversation. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate it and appreciate you jumping on. The other thing another show I think that's absolutely worthy of binge watching is Star Trek Discovery. This is the newest addition to the Star Trek franchise. If you are leery because you are not a Trekkie, just stop it. The writing is really good. The situations, while different, because we're talking about different species, different planets, different worlds, the situations are still relatable and the acting is first rate. Sonequa Martin Green and Michelle Yeoh, just them alone. Just them alone. The rest of the cast is fantastic, but just them alone provide more than enough reasons to watch this franchise. Yeah, they go where no man has gone before. they do that, but they do they just do much better than that. They are really good. This is so well done, and I'm telling you, it is on Paramount Plus. So Antonio, you ask, hey, what's my favorite? Well, to watch Star Trek's Discovery, you have to have Paramount Plus, and this is absolutely worth having Paramount Plus for. I'd say the same thing about Ted Lasso. It's on Apple TV Plus, and it's worth having if you want to watch Apple TV Plus. That's the problem, is that now is everything so fractured that you have to have all these different things to be able to watch some of the things that you might want to watch. Now, this one I'm a little bit biased on. This is on Netflix and it's called The Liberator. I'm biased because this year I actually wrote my second article for Variety magazine, and it's about this miniseries, and it follows the story of Army officer Felix Sparks. He's white, but he has a diverse unit of Native Americans, Mexicans, and American cowboys, and it's during World War II. Here's a time when those diverse people didn't work together and in many cases were at odds. This unit spent an unprecedented 500 days in combat and liberated the Dachau concentration camp. And while it's told from the perspective of the white guy, I have to say this because I know a lot of us be like, here we go again. It's the white folk, it's the white savior, whatever. It it elevates the perception that we have of people of color during the war. It is animated, and it's animated in such a way that it's realistic, really realistic, and it's really, really good. You can catch the 4 episodes of this one on Netflix. And if you get a chance to go to Variety and check out my article, hey, I appreciate that one. And then the last one is that was the last one that I want to mention, but I do want to mention that I watched a lot of shows, including Kevin Hart's True Story. I won't talk about it here. I enjoyed it. But I can't talk about everything. I just want to get on for a few minutes, talk a little bit about the movies, say a few things here or there. So I just want to say to you guys, happy binging, because you have 3 days. You can start, have breakfast. It's only 10:30 where I am. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna go over here and watch The Price is Right in a minute. Watch the end of it. A happy binging, and here's to a happy and prosperous new year. If, as you know, we try to get better and better. I will be on with some more folks. I want to thank all of you guys for watching. I want to thank all my friends for being on. I am hoping that again your new year has, um, while it will have some challenges, but that it will have a lot of triumphs. Thanks so much for checking me out, and I'll talk to you guys later. Out.